Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming to the May events for the EdmData user group. Today, we have Daniel presenting Power BI development and GitHub. We'd like to welcome him, and I'll hand it over to you there, Daniel.
We are going to the stuff which is, I think, beyond the basics of version control and how you can solve your issues you might not know yet, but you will face if you start planning your CI/CD pipeline. And so how you can solve this with GitHub Actions, for example. My name is Dani Patkos. I'm from Budapest, Hungary. I work for a boutique consulting company called Visual Labs. And if you want to contact me on LinkedIn or check the content of my blog, you can check the QR codes, but I will share this later. So usually I start this presentation to get the audience a bit better. I'm not sure how many of you are eating or doing stuff. I'm not going to go through this entire questionnaire, but if you could just unmute yourself and share or just write the response into the chat. How familiar are you with Git, and whether you are using, for example, Power BI project files yet or not?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, at my work, we use the Power BI and Git mostly tie into DevOps today.
Yeah.
So we're kind of investigating in terms of the deployment piece, like if there is a good way to get it directly deployed to the workspace. As we move into Fabric, things are kind of changing a bit as well, right? So we're trying to figure out what is the best way to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else willing to share? It will have an impact on the flow of the presentation. So based on what you say, I will check the balance the content. By this I mean how many explanation should I do before each sections.
Have you guys used Power BI with Git?
Yep.
Yeah. How comprehensive?
All of our workspaces are integrated with Git right now. So
Nice.
using source control for Power BI reports, our ETLs, our pipelines, our notebooks. So yeah, and then we're using kind of just dev, test, prod workspaces to implement that using what they call deployment variables and whatnot as well.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But yeah, I'm just here to figure out how to use that further using Git Actions and how we can kind of make our process more robust.
So are you guys in Git today, or are you guys in DevOps today?
We are currently in DevOps, so we're migrating everything to Git.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Okay, good. Great. Today, so this session is only about Power BI, because when I started to develop this section, Fabric wasn't even a thing, or Fabric did not have a great Git integration. But I think I hope that the message or the content will be useful for Fabric as well. I'm actually going to deliver another session together with Kevin Chant. I'm not sure if you know him. If not, you should follow his blog. This week, which is about using Fabric CLI and Fabric CI/CD. So we might submit together to Edmund on the user group as well. Again, that section later. Okay, thanks for the answers. So I'm going to go through this one quickly. If anyone wants to refresh their Git knowledge, or CI/CD and Power BI knowledge, what Tyndall is, if you are not familiar with PRs or merge or branches, you can scan the QR code and then just check it during the presentation. But since we are just only a few of us, I mean, feel free to ask questions if you don't know any of the terminology I'm going to use. But based on just what you said, I guess that you are the proper audience, or like the target audience of this presentation, so we can move freely. I'm going to share, like, I want to focus on 3 things today. The first, why using Power BI project files and Git is good for your Power BI development, and then the second one is how you can run with GitHub Actions, how you can run like automated tests and before like start building your CI/CD pipeline. And the third thing, and actually this is going to be the main goal of this session and also take out most of the presentation, is how you can scale. It's like once you have a solution for one repo or like for like one project, how you can scale this across your organization, how you can set up a system like a CI/CD pipeline, which is version controlled and can be deployed easily across multiple repos, and you don't have to copy and paste codes, but you can version control your version control system, basically. So I'm going to start quickly what was before version control in Power BI. So, and I call this the dark age because it's like, honestly, like version control for Power BI was a nightmare before the Power BI project files. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the feeling, but this is unfortunately an example of our real projects, because I struggled with version control. I tried to fight it on my own and came up with my own solutions. And obviously, what I was using is a naming convention, which I thought is going to be the one which solves all of my issues. So the naming convention was like project name _ date. For some reason, date feels like always important. I don't know why, but like, and then the version number. And then, as you can see, in this case, but there was like another case when I was presenting my demo to the team, and one of my colleagues started to laugh his ass off, and I was like, "Come on, mate, focus. What's that?" And it was like, "Danny, version 147. Seriously?" And I was like, I was first a bit offended because it was my baby, my project at version 147. But obviously he had every right to laugh because it's not a great way to version control your solutions. But this is what you had. And I think things were even worse if you were developing in a team. We wanted to set up again like the silver bullet, and we wanted to store the single source of truth on SharePoint. But as you can see from the screenshots, I think I can say that not proudly but firmly that we failed that spectacularly. So version control was even a biggest issue for Power BI if you're working in a team. Anyone dares or wants to share their way of trying to solve version control?
I think a lot of us probably have finals.
Yeah.
It's a lot of copies of the dashboard in my downloads. Yeah, I'm guilty with a date naming convention as well. So I always the backup or something like a rollback version whenever I publish. So yeah, very familiar.
Obviously, like after 3 months, who cares if it's happened on the 27th or the 28th? You won't remember the difference. So you see, I guess you've seen the issues with all this. And then I think it's more than 2 years ago now when the holy grail for us Power BI developers, the Power BI project files came into the picture. And I feel that still think that from a Power BI point of view, this is the best thing what happened to us as developers, because the interaction of Power BI project files, we could say goodbye to single extension, to the PBIX extension, and instead of like one file, we could also, we could finally save our Power BI project in a folder structure, which initially was the files in the folders was initially in JSON, which was not ideal, but at least it was code based, so you could start integrating with version control system like Git. Another like perfectly good think of that, or like, is that the UI and the UX from an end user point of view was the same. So you could work with the Power BI desktop as before, and also on service. When you publish your file, you publish your project, it doesn't matter if you had how many files you had in your folders. The end user on service could only see the report and the semantic model. So it's amazing. The logic is you have one folder for all the files related to your reports, and one folder for all the files related to your semantic model. In case of your semantic model, imagine that all of your tables has a separate file, and all the information, all the pieces of information related to this to this table is recorded there. If you use Tyndall, for example, which is the tabular model definitive language, is a very good is also a recommendation that to turn on this feature, because instead of storing your semantic model related data in JSON, now you can store this in Tyndall, which is human readable and easy to interact with, and also it's very easy to parse with other tools like Python. This is an example, as you can see. Let me find the laser pointer. Yes. So as you can see, this is a Power BI project file opened in VS Code, and under tables, I can see all the tables present in my model as separate files. And if you move forward, this, for example, is a column which called converted users, and as you can see, it has all the attributes. So like data type, format string, and the default summarization as well. So even without opening your Power BI file, if you want to make sure that none of your numeric columns has a default summarization set up, you can check this. And also you can ask GitHub Copilot, or you can just write a Python code, or you can do like user imagination and change the code, because one of the best practices to follow in case of Power BI is not to have a default summarization for your numeric columns. So you can do that, and it also contains the Power Query, so the M code. And if you're brave enough or know enough about Power Query, you can also change that. And the next time you open Power BI Desktop, this is going to be integrated. So it's amazing. If you're not using that already, please start using that, because it makes your life easier, and it opens so many doors now that you have now that we have LLMs as well, so we can interact with the code itself. In terms of the reporting part, so the visualization part is that is called, the extension is called PBIR, which is basically JSON, a bit more difficult to interact with, and I'm not sure if any one of you had to like approve a PR which contained like visualization modification related stuff, but that if you are not familiar with the model, that can be a challenge, because in Tyndall, as you can see, so like everything is human readable, but in PBIR, it's mostly GUIDs, and one change in your Power BI model. So like if you just move away a bit of one charts or rename a page. So like even that, if you're not familiar with the report, it's a difficult thing, but at least it's code based, and maybe LLMs can have a better understanding of understanding the changes that we are. But obviously we are responsible. So I'm not a big fan of PBIR, but it's way better than what we had before. I can only hope that it gets better with time. Okay, so this is what we had with the introduction of PBIP, and basically now that we have our code or like our project in a code format, again, version control is starting to make sense now. So first we are going to work in Power BI Desktop as before, but instead of saving our files in PBIX, we are going to save that locally in PBIP and have our folder structure. So for the semantic model and for the report and so on and so on. And now we can create just locally, nothing like nothing too fancy, but we can also start creating and start using Git and set up our own local repository. This still doesn't mean that we are sharing this with our colleagues, but at least on our computer, we don't have to rely on version 147s and final 3. But we can check the changes. We can create feature branches, and if we are familiar and happy and with all this, we can also connect it to a Git host, which can be Azure DevOps or GitHub. Like both are supported. Supported is a nice way to say it, owned by Microsoft. So, but both are like supported or integrated with Power BI and Fabric as well, and which you can further integrate with your Fabric and Power BI workspaces, which you can further integrate with other apps like Teams. So this is like the based on what we had before, the PBIX file, just saving your file into PBIP extension opens like an enormous amount of possibilities. So we are going to focus, I think we are going to leave the local part. We are going to just focus on this part, what you can do with GitHub or Azure integrations. So all of my examples are going to be showcased on GitHub, but GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps pipelines are very similar. So they both use YAML. Obviously, there are like certain differences, but the overwhelming majority of what I show you can basically. I'm not saying you can use the same code, but with a bit of modifications, you can use those codes and do the same thing with Azure DevOps. So no worries if you are using Azure DevOps. I know that a few companies are who are not like. I mean, there are reasons they are not using GitHub, maybe GitHub yet, but no worries. Azure DevOps is fine as well. So just a bit of a Git basics. So when I talk about repos, imagine that repo is a big folder. This is where you can store all your project-related files, and this is the repo where all your changes are automatically tracked and made the modifications. Commits. A commit is a snapshot of a current situation of your project. So earlier, we call this version 147 or final 3, but now it's better because you can add messages to that. So you can say that, okay, in this version, I changed this, and that. And it not only that, but you can go back and check the exact changes in the files. So if you modified a measure, I'm going to show that later. If you modified only a measure and you add a commit message that I modified total sales amount, and someone checks the commit and checks the code, they will understand there is going to be a comparison, which is called, so it's going to be the difference, or like display the difference that in one it was calculated using this, and the new version uses this calculation. Branches are separate, like let's call it like workspaces, when you can co-develop and you can try also like new things without messing up the main project or without messing up other works. So these are like separated workspaces. And merge, every time you have a branch where what you are using for your own developing your own features, and you want to merge your versions and other version, or the prod version, then you are going to merge this and merge the changes into the existing project. And lastly, pull requests. So it's basically what happens before a merge. If you are use pull requests, it's a formal way to say that, hey, I'm ready with my work. I think my changes are tested and okay. So you're asking for approval from your colleagues who are going to approve this pull request, and when it's approved, you can merge the two branches together. So once you are familiar with that, I think so. One of my, I think one of my main messages is, if you are just starting using this solution, then obviously you should not start using this with the most important client project you have, because you are going to get most probably very frustrated. One of my recommendations is to the team leaders, or if you are like a more senior developer in the team, that it's most probably your responsibility to elevate everyone to the same level in the team. What we did is we created a demo session, which we also recorded, but we listed a lot of like possible things what can happen. So we, okay, what if I want to develop something which is separately, which is how can I create a feature branch? How can I merge two things together? How can I solve a merge conflict, which happens when like your version and the version you want to merge into are different, and you need to find the solution. So we went to a lot of scenarios, and I do recommend to do the same with your team as well, because there can be individuals who are not feeling comfortable with the solution, and they might start to use and create like shadow repositories, or they are not going to commit just at the end of the day, which is not like continuous integration, or like which is not for like source control, because you cannot like review I don't know, like 200 changes in the code easily. So please dedicate time to practice this and make sure that everyone understands this. Otherwise, it can backfire, unfortunately. But once everyone is familiar with that, I think you are going to face new challenges, and these challenges are as follows. So how do you ensure consistency? How you can like prevent bad practices and align the teams and introduce automated checks? For example, I think that every project should have properly formatted DAX code. And obviously I can say that as a team lead and expect that everyone should format the DAX code properly. But I know that not even myself can pay attention to that every time. So, okay, how can I automate that? I also think that knowing our clients, the complexity of our projects, I know that none of our semantic models should have a bidirectional relationship between the tables or a many-to-many relationship between the tables. And I also have other similar criteria for my project. How can I like force this, enforce this, and how can I automate these checks? Also, I don't care if you are a junior member of the team or the most senior. If you write a DAX code, which is like longer than 20 lines, I think I will consider that as a complex DAX code. So I expect that DAX code should be commented. And these are just a few examples of the challenges you might face. And the answer to all of this is going to be CI/CD, which is one step beyond version control. This is continuous integration and continuous deployment. This is how we bring the same rigor from software engineering into PowerBI development or Fabric development. This is what gives us automating quality checks, improving collaborations, and how we can automatically pushing trusted code to production faster. And this is where you can go one step beyond version control and start automating all your integrations and deployment workflows. And if you are using GitHub, then the tool is going to be GitHub Actions. If you are using Azure, then the tool is going to be Azure DevOps Pipelines. These will let you automate the testing, the validation, and even the deployment. The best thing that you can integrate both GitHub Actions and DevOps pipelines with third-party tools you might already be familiar with. For example, the tabular editor or the PowerBI inspector. Anyone using any of these for the projects? For example, tabular editor?
Using it a little bit right now.
Okay. I'm going to, and anyone familiar with the best practice analyzer, which is now also integrated into Fabric? Okay, Ian, I can see, thanks. Okay, real quick, I'm going to explain because this is what we are going to use. So the best practice analyzer is a tool which you can use or run from tabular editor or other third-party tool as well, like the Measure Killer. Now, if you open your semantic model online, like in Power BI service, you can run this as well. This is a set of tools which you can, a set of rules which you can run your semantic model against, and you will end up with a health check or like a health status of your semantic model. It has, I think, last time I checked in total on the internet, it has around like 200-ish rules. Some of those are available on the, I think on the Microsoft GitHub account as well, and other I created or like backed by the community. And the reason we are going to run this via tabular editor is because to run, so GitHub Actions and also the DevOps pipeline, it can interact with tools which have a CLI, so the command line interface version, and we are going to trigger that in our GitHub Actions workflow. So we run the best practice analyzer, which analyzes our reports, and it returns what you can see. If you run this on your computer, you will have like a nice summary once it's finished. It will check these rules, these best practices, and as you can see, it categorizes. So all the bolds, or like the bold lines are rules. For example, don't summarize numeric columns. This is one of the best practices. Or avoid division line, or like so the divide operator, and use the divide instead. So every time you have a measure using the divide operator instead of a divide function, like dex function, then it's going to be raised as an error. Speaking of which, these rules are categorized into 3 severity levels. The higher the severity, the greater the impact. So this also comes from like software development. Severity 1, like information. If you run into a severity 1 issue, this is not going to break your model. This is like nice to haves, which you want to correct like at a certain point of time, but not like not going to break your model. Severity 2, like warnings, these are these can have an impact on your model, like a bad influence. For example, having calculated columns or calculated tables. If you're familiar with PowerBI, you know that this is not a good practice because this can have like a serious impact on the performance of the report when the report is loaded. So if you have calculated columns, these are going to raise as a severity 2 warning. And severity 3 are the issues which are going to potentially break your model. And one of the examples, and the examples which we are going to use, is the avoid the division. So use the divide function instead, because if your denominator can be 0, then obviously like dividing by 0 is not possible. So if you use that measure in a visualization, for example, that visualization is going to be broken if the evaluation of that calculation is it returns an error. Using divide is a best practice because divide has a built-in resolution to that. So if 0 is the denominator, that it is going to return blank instead of an error. So your visual is not going to be broken. Okay, so this is the best practice analyzer, which we are going to run in a second. And this scenario I'm going to demo, we are going to watch a video. I pre-recorded this part of the demo, and I'm going to show the other things on the repository. So the basic scenario that someone develops a new measure and wants to push it in the main branch. Fortunately, we are already like mature enough that we are not just merging back and forth to the main branch, but we are going to create a pull request. And this pull request is going to trigger a GitHub Action workflow, which we run the BPA. So you can set this up in GitHub, but also in Azure DevOps. So whenever a pull request is triggered, then that is going to trigger an automatic evaluation of your code. So we are going to check the action. So this is the action part in GitHub, and we are going to check the YAML code. So watch what is executed automatically. I'm going to back a few seconds. So what this does is basically downloads Tabulator and installs Tabulator as well on the instance created by GitHub Actions. And once that installs, it also runs the best practice analyzer against our model, so the PowerBI semantic model. It starts on a pull request, and let's see from the developer point of view. I'm going to change the result of that specific measure, and as you can see, the measure is not following best practices. It uses the divide, so the slash or the divide operator instead of the divide function. I just saved my code. I went into VS Code to check the changes, and when I said that you can compare the differences between the old version and the new version, the red part is the old version, and the green part is the new version. And here I can check and make sure that these are the changes I want to use, I'm going to add the nice commit message where I describe what happens in this change. I'm also going to make sure that I'm working on my feature branch and not trying to modify the main project. And once this is ready, I can check the changes, or like check the change. This is where the commit appeared, and now I'm going to open a pull request. So a pull request, again, a formal way to ask for approval from my colleagues, and I just said that, hey, please accept these changes because I just developed a new measure. And when it's created, and I move back to GitHub, and I go to the pull requests, I can see that there is something happening, and this is exactly the GitHub Actions workflow which is running. So it was triggered by the pull request, and if I check what happens here, I can see that there is a red X, which is usually not a great sign. And if I check the code, I can see that so this is the cost per conversion, which is the measure I modified, validates the rule, avoid division, and use the divide function instead. So I get this nice message. We are going to talk about this later, and it ran into an error. So my pull request was automatically rejected by this automation because it was not following best practices. So as a team member, it's or like not a team member, it's good from a team member point of view as well, but also from the approver point of view, because you don't need to go through these codes every time right away, but there is like a preset quality check which can evaluate the state of the code and can make decisions whether you can whether the developer can ask for a re-approver for someone, or there are things they need to modify beforehand. This is a quick example of what we can do, and basically we run our first challenge, because one of the biggest challenges, like when you start using this, is like how you can automate these checks, and this is where GitHub Actions comes into the picture. You can automate these kind of checks on pull requests. You can set up automations whenever a new branch is created, whenever someone commits to a certain branch. So you can do a lot of stuff with GitHub Actions. But I'm going to start talking about my issues. And one of the biggest issues I have, that in order to understand this specific message, for example, which says that measure, like the workflow completed with exit code 1 is you need to understand what exit code 1 means, and if you are not a GitHub Actions expert, or this is the first time when you run into something like that, then you are not going to understand what happens. Also, if you have a more complex model and there are many other things in your PR, there is a chance that that you will run into not one but maybe multiple rule violations. And there is a difference between Tabular Editor Desktop and Tabular Editor CLI, so which is run by GitHub Actions. So if you have multiple severity-free violations, which will stop the workflow, then you will correct one by one, because you want, if there is another division in your model using the divide operator instead of the divide function, then even if you correct this one, because the pull request said that, your next run is going to be stopped and fail again because there is another issue. So At first, I think it's a good start, but it's not enough from my point of view, because the developers and everyone should have a better understanding of what needs to be corrected and what are the things which they need to focus on. So you can set up a way, which I'm going to relatively quickly skip, which solves the issue. We solve this issue. So run the best practice analyzer and get the result. And if you have multiple, like severity 3, severity 2 issues, then you will have a list to go through all of those, and you have a chance to make your changes in one go before triggering the GitHub Actions and failing the test again and again. So you can write your own code to that. I'm going to share the repository where I share all these, and also a few articles where I explain this a bit more detail. But you are going to need a Python code, a C# code, and a few other things as well. But in the end, you can have, for example, a CSV file which collects all the issues identified by the best practice analyzer, and based on that, you can start modifying your model. However, if you export this, for example, into a CSV, that again, I don't think that this is going to be the best way to deal with that, because even if what you can see here, instead of like one single CSV file where you need to add additional filters and find what are the severity 3 rule violations, what are the severity 2 violations, you can do with GitHub Actions. You can set up a scenario when you break this into separate files, but still you need to download that, you need to open the files, and you need to manually do all these. And I still don't think that this is a good solution, because as a developer, I think you want to act on what needs to be corrected immediately, and you don't want to get lost into GitHub sub pages and find the artifact and download and open separate file, like unzip and open files. So it's not a good way to do these things. So what I would recommend is creating another Python file which can, the result of your best practice analyzer. Okay.